right. Last week we did 17 through 21, and it's Job finally decides to enter into the debate. Okay, you want to debate this thing? And like we talked about last week, one of the best ways to put your opponent on the spot if you're in a debate, presidential debate or whatever the debate is to return questions. And he does that. He says that, so just how often does the wicked get snuffed down? And do you think these guys are poor? He's probably looking at people who are just as rich as he is. I mean, don't rich people kind of hang around with each other, and poor people kind of hang around with each other? And I know at church we all come together, but we sit on opposite sides of the aisle, and don't touch my pew. It's amazing how every time I go to a church I've never been to before, I'll kind of stand and wait till everybody gets seated before I sit down. Somebody will say, well, have a seat. And I say, well, which one's not taken? Oh, you can sit anywhere. No, you can't. No, you can't. You're going to really destroy somebody's morning if you sit in the Williams pew or the Bennett pew or whatever, the Benner pew. And we tend to be creatures of habit and tend to do that. Well, he questions that. He said, so are the wicked really being snuffed out? He's looking them right in the eye. I mean, or the rich. How often does calamity come upon them? They got armies and guards and walls built around their houses. How often are they like straw before the wind, unstable and just blown away by consequences? It is said God stores up man's punishment for his sons. Let him repay the man himself so that he will know it. And this gets personal right here. The Bible says that the sins of the father are visited upon the second and third generations of the children. Okay? And so a lot of times we're not thinking about the consequences, but he reverses it. He says, let's take that, and the wisdom here is amazing because nothing's been written yet. This is Abraham. Moses hasn't put a thing down on paper yet. And yet he's saying things that will eventually, 1,000 years later, 800 years later, be written down and put in our Bible. He's saying, so what if God was to not visit it upon the children, but visit it upon the father? And there's this, I can imagine this silence as he looks them in the eye. What about that? What about if the father got it instead of the kids? And so he's coming back at them. He's answering their question. He's heard enough. This is also a very good technique if you're witnessing Christ to someone. If you're lecturing or if you're preaching or if you're expounding upon theology or the character of God, the other person is not in the conversation. He's not a participant, he's a spectator. But if you ask questions and draw him into the conversation, then he becomes part of it. I was called to the nursing home one time because one of the biggest reprobates of French Lick was dying of esophagus cancer. Nobody liked him. I mean, I didn't like him. I was in Lions Club with him, and nobody liked him. And why they called me, I don't know, but they called me. I guess he couldn't get anybody else brave enough to go. So I walked in, and he looked up, and he kind of looked curious, and I said, I won't tell you what his name was. I said, hi. I said, how are things going? Kind of shook his head. The doctors already told him it was terminal. There wasn't anything they could do. And he said, and I answered him with a question. I said, the day comes to all of us. If this was your day, would you be ready to stand before God? And big tears welled up in his eyes. Because I pulled him into the conversation. I didn't lecture to him. I didn't tell him that sinners go to hell and that the fires were waiting. And, you know, I said, would you be ready? And he shook his head, no. And tears started rolling down his cheeks. And I said, well, can you think of a better day to get ready than this one? And I just kept asking him a question and asking him a question and pulled him into the conversation, and he accepted Christ that day. And I served in communion for I think 3 more weeks, maybe 4. And then I walked in one Sunday morning, he died the night before. And he'd be waiting at the gate. But the guy was really confrontational, and nobody liked him because he'd get in your face and he'd pound his fist, and he was hard to get along with. And I know what would have happened if I'd have went in and started preaching to him, because he would have pushed right back. So answering, using questions is sometimes a good thing and a great technique. Not only to confront somebody with their fallacies, but to draw them into the conversation and to make them part of the situation rather than a spectator being lectured to or preached to or addressed down. Any questions on me? Okay, there'll be a quiz. 23 to 26.
Can anyone teach knowledge to God, since he judges even the highest? One man died in full vigor, completely secure and at ease, his body well nourished, his bones rich with marrow. Another man dies in bitterness of soul, never having enjoyed anything good. Side by side they lay in the dust, and worms cover them both.
Okay, what's he saying here?
We all die the same. We all die the same. End up in the same way.
We all end up in the same place. And sleeping with the worms. Do you ever see Outlaw Jesse Williams? Remember that great line in there? That great line? They had to shoot this guy because they were chasing him and they got pinned down. And the young kid looked at Jesse and said, are we going to bury these boys? And Jesse says, boy, birds got to eat, same as worms. It was a rough movie. Why I thought of that while I was reading the Bible. But we all end up in the same place. We all end up dust, return to dust, whether the worms or the buzzards or the fish in the sea. We all turn to what made us. Dust returns to dust. And the opening verse is, can anyone teach knowledge to God? Remember who's talking here, it's Job, and who he's talking to, he's saying, you guys really think you're this smart to take the throne of God and judge me? Isn't that what we're doing when we judge someone? Now, there's a difference between judgment and counseling, and it's a very fine line. I mean, it's easy to step over from one to the other, get frustrated or get out of bounds. But the bottom line is, there's a point where you have to stop. I can tell you what sin is and read the Bible to you about sin. I can offer you God's salvation and read the scriptures that pertain to that. But I cannot go to the point where I would say, and if you don't, you'll go to hell. There's only one person who can make that determination. I cannot say that. I would never say that in a sermon or anything else. I can tell you what hell is. I can tell you there's two choices in the end. But I would never, ever look anybody in the eye and say, if you don't quit cheating on your wife, you're going to hell. That's reserved only for the throne of God. Judgment and punishment belongs to God. Discipline belongs to God. I can warn you it might be coming, but I'm not the one who disciplines. God is. And he's looking at the guy and he says, can anyone teach knowledge to God? Are you guys really comfortable with sitting on this throne and judging me? That's not said there in those words, but it's very much implied. Okay. One man, and then he goes into this. The rich die the same as the poor, and they all end up the same. Okay. 27 to 33 is a break, but there's only one more verse, so we'll just read the whole thing. 27 to 34.
I know full well what you are thinking, the schemes by which you would wrong me. You say, where now is the wicked man's house? Where's the great man's house? The tents where wicked men live. Have you never questioned those who travel? Have you paid no regard to their accounts? That the evil man is spared from the day of calamity, that he is delivered from the day of wrath? Who denounces his conduct to his face? Who repays him for what he has done? He is carried to the grave, and watch is kept over his tomb. The soil in the valley is sweet to him. All men follow after him, and a countless throng goes before him. So, how can you console me with your nonsense? Nothing is left of your answers but falsehood.
Let's shorten it. What's he saying in the fewest possible words?
Wicked liars. You're wicked liars.
You're what?
Wicked liars.
Yep. This is nothing but a pack of lies. It's nothing but a pack of lies. Why do we do this? I know full well what you were thinking, the schemes by which you would wrong me. Are there really schemes going on here? Guess it depends on how you define schemes. Why would we do something like this? Why would we? What would cause a man to go to another man's deathbed and act like this?
Make them feel high and mighty.
Say what?
Make themselves feel high and mighty.
And I'd lift myself up? Because I'm looking at this guy, and 2 months ago we were friends and pretty much equal and doing very, very well, and now all of a sudden he crashed, and what are the chances of me crashing? So I try to lift myself up above it for my own peace. Okay? Can you get peace at the expense of another's problem? Can you draw peace from that? What makes us think we can try? Some words come to mind. Envy. They accomplished more, or they got the promotion, and I'm just as good as they are, and I should have got it because I've got seniority, and I start coming up with all these reasons why I'm just as good or better, and what am I doing? I'm pushing them down. I wrote some software for the post office one time, and I just wrote it for me. I just got sick of filling little bitty boxes with a little bitty, and then they had to type them in, and they were not spaced right, and it took hours and hours. So I wrote a computer program to not only print the form, but fill it in. And I sent it in. Didn't say a word to anybody, didn't want to be famous, just didn't want to put numbers in those stupid little boxes. tiny little box. I sent it in, and where'd you get this? Where'd you get this? Oh, off my computer. Well, who gave it to you? Well, nobody gave it to you. I wrote the program. No, who gave it to you? Duh. Why couldn't I wrote the program? You didn't write it. You're the one asking the questions, not me. So anyway, and then my boss drives down to French Lick from Indianapolis. What's the deal with this computer form? Wrote this program, and we need that. It costs $180,000 a year just to order forms. And so I ended up traveling all over the United States. He used it in 48 states. And everywhere I went, it started out with the exact same attitude. Why did they send somebody from Indiana to tell somebody in Arkansas how to camera rule? Well, I know how to do Excel too. When it was all over, and I demonstrated a program to show them how to fill it out, everybody was, wow, you mean we don't have to put little bitty numbers in those stupid little boxes anymore? But it was always opened up the exact same way. Why does Indiana think they can tell us what? Romney went over to England, who, Romney had ran a Olympics, and he went over and he said, boy, he said, have you considered the congestion problem you're going to have by putting this thing where you put it? And well, who are you to tell us what to do? And kind of backed off. And it turned out people that went over to England missed most of the events because they were sitting in traffic out there in the middle of a 2-lane road, trying to get 6 lanes of traffic into a 1-lane gate. So, but their initial response was, well, who are you to tell us? Turned out he was right, and most of the people didn't even get to see the show, and the stands were empty because they just literally couldn't get that many cars. Now, they said, well, if you put it out in the middle of Utah, in the middle of nowhere, it'd be real easy, wouldn't it? And just comment after comment on the news. And the truth of the matter is, he was right. So he says, guys, it's nothing but a pack of lies. And if you go back to my questions in 17 through 21, you want me to do those again? You'll have to admit that what you've been saying to me is not true. They said it out of envy. They said it out of fear. They said it out of jealousy. They said it out of ignorance because, what if this happens to me? I'm rich too. Well, let's not go there. Let's blame you, and then I won't have to deal with it. Kind of a thing like that. Okay. Somebody read 1, 2, and 3. Named Eliphaz the Temanite.
Then Eliphaz the Temanite replied, can a man be of benefit to God? Can even a wise man benefit him? What pleasure would it give the Almighty if you were righteous? What would he gain if your ways were blameless?
Well, what would it gain the Almighty if you were righteous? But he comes back with a bunch of questions. He picks up on Job's questions and he says, well, I'll question you. Okay? What would it gain the Almighty if you were righteous? Anything? Would God gain anything if you were righteous?
You possibly could if you had more people.
Say what?
I said possibly could, I guess, if you had more people.
Okay. What would it be? If Don's righteous, what does God gain? A daughter. You want to trade your daughter for anything? On most days.
Yeah.
He would gain a son. His name would be mine. And he shed his only begotten Son so that his righteousness could be yours. It's a false statement. What would God gain if you were righteous? He'd gain a son, a daughter. He'd gain his big family. There'd be a wedding feast someday when Jesus Christ came back and we all rise to meet him in the sky. He'd replace the angels he lost due to Satan, who were the angels of praise, and he could replace them with you, and you could be the song of heaven. Do you realize that we are the song of heaven? What was the job of Satan's angels?
Singers.
Hmm?
Singers. They were the singers.
They were the singers. They were the praisers. They were the ones that praised to God. They were the song of heaven. And when Satan led them astray and they were cast down, God lost the song. He replaced it with you. We are the ones who praise the Lord. We are the song of heaven. He's going to have to fix something when I get there. But he can, and it'll be fine. But the premise here is we're nothing. Would a man die for nothing? I quit watching the news this week because of Benghazi and the 2 SEALs that got killed. One of our best ambassadors. It just gets uglier and uglier by the day. And those 2 guys were told 3 times, stand down, do not try to rescue the ambassador. And finally they said, we're going. They rescued 20 people. And they got the ambassador out while he was still breathing, but he died of smoke inhalation. 3 times they were told to stand down. And they said, we're going. We're not going to obey that order. We're not doing it. And in the end, they died. Found out this morning that they had lasers trained on the border sites, and they were given direct orders from the Situation Room at the height. Do not pull that trigger. Do not fire those missiles. Do not respond to, and those missiles are precise. They go directly where that laser sight is. The mortar sites that killed them, they had targeted, and all they had to do was pull a trigger. 2 missiles would have left that cruiser, and 30 seconds later, it would have been over. Those guys gave their lives for a man they didn't even know. The Bible says, greater love has no man that he be willing to lay down his life for them. When God sent his Son to give us righteousness, it was the greatest love that he could have shown to us. Period. Can a man be a benefit to God? Can you benefit God? Can we help him out here? Well, maybe not with the universe, but with your neighbor, you surely can. With one another, we can help one another. We can encourage one another. We can mentor one another. We can take people who are new in the faith and make them more mature in the faith. So that one day one of you are going to have to be sitting in this chair teaching this class. Because I'm going to die. I'd be happy if you hung around till I did, but that's how it ends. And hopefully I'm of some benefit to you, and therefore to God. Have you learned anything since you came in here? Please say it. Don't lie, though. But, has it been a benefit to both of us? And if it's been a benefit to both of us and we become tighter and stronger and closer, did that benefit God? Yeah, because other people are watching and they're seeing something pretty unique in this world. If this many people can get along this often, gotta be something going on there that I'd like to be part of, because, you know, I can fight with anybody on a bar on Friday night. Pretty easy to get in a fight. What pleasure would it give the Almighty if you were righteous? What would he gain? What pleasure? It says that there is, I guess it's a song, I don't know, it's based on a verse, about there's joy in heaven when a sinner finds salvation. That's not the words, aren't the exact words, but I've heard it many, many times. I think it's a song, but it's probably based, most of our songs are based on verses. But there's great joy in heaven when a sinner finds salvation. Great. And yes, it is very pleasing to God. It is great pleasure that the sacrifice of his son does not go for naught. Alrighty, we'll pick up at 4 next week. We're not having Sunday school. Sunday school is canceled. Bring a donut or something and share it with us. Okay?